Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Hey, Are You Still There podcast. It is Mike without Beth. Once again, Beth is pretty busy right now with some things, and so she wasn't able to squeeze in some time to make the podcast happen. So you've got me, and I'll be honest, I am in recovery mode. I don't know how long my voice will hold up or how long today's podcast may go, but I've had a pretty good week since our last podcast. Some pretty interesting things going on, and just kind of wanted to update people on that and share some thoughts on life at the intersection of marriage, family, careers, and ministry, which is, hey, are you still there in a nutshell? So I will just kick off with a couple big events that happened in our life over the last week. We'll just last week, Beth made the big announcement. She was going to be leaving her job that she's had for the last 20 years and has been going through a wide range of emotions, dealing with that and thinking through that and saying goodbye to people and letting people know and anticipating what's next and just all of those things. And so I know that I slipped up and mentioned it. We didn't say we weren't going to announce it definitely yet, but she has not made this public via social media yet. So I know last week I kind of slipped up and said where it was. So you had to be listening really closely. You would have caught it. I also kind of gave a hint in the title of last week's podcast, but I'm going to go ahead. I told her, I was like, we're just going to get this thing out in the open. She is leaving her alma mater, Wake Forest University, and she is going to Emory University down in Atlanta. I guess specifically the Emory University and the Emory School of Medicine is where she's going to be working, and that campus is more of Decatur area, which is like northeast Atlanta. It's a pretty posh area, I guess, to say the least. A lot of people live there that are kind of the movers and shakers around the Atlanta area. So things are more expensive there. It's nicer there, probably a bit more safer there. But kind of up around Decatur, you also have Druid Hills, Stone Mountain, that area of northeast Atlanta. That's where the university is going to be. We are trying to figure out what she's going to do as far as her 1 week a month that she's going to be traveling there, at least temporarily. We're not expecting this to be a permanent thing once 1 week a month, but she will be having to go down to Atlanta. So just trying to figure out, does she just get a hotel room each time? Does she rent a room? Because you don't want to have to haul all your stuff out once a month to travel down, work clothes and things like that. So we have a couple leads. One of them looks pretty promising, of someone that has a full basement apartment that they've never rented out, a couple, but have been kicking around the idea. I posted on the Emory website that my wife was looking for a spot and explained the situation a little bit, and they reached out privately and said, that sounds like a perfect fit for what they were thinking about. I guess they had this basement apartment that they had renovated, and they were thinking about at some point doing an Airbnb out of it, but never have. So if they can, get Beth there 1 week out of the month, I think that's good for them. And they said that she could leave her stuff there if she wanted to and all of that, that it wouldn't be used any other time. So I don't know. That's one possibility. But full steam ahead for Atlanta. There was a day and time where I would have loved to have lived in Atlanta. I even at one point, when I was a youth pastor, it's probably been 24 years ago now, interviewed for a youth minister position at a church in Peachtree City, which is a little suburb of Atlanta, Georgia. So, I mean, I've grown up going to Braves games. We've gone to Atlanta so many times as a family. We've done mission trips in downtown Atlanta. I know that area very well. So it's something that we've kicked around the idea, and there was a day or two where we did contemplate just moving and heading down there and just moving down there. But Josh has 2 years of school left. He was all for it. I mean, he's going to be a junior in high school, but he was like, I'll do it. Let's go. But Josh is our kid that's always up for adventures. But at the end of the day, didn't feel like that was probably the wisest move. So we we decided not to make that move yet. It maybe never, but there's always a chance. I mean, never say never, right? You don't know what doors God's going to open or kind of shut or push you towards. So I don't ever want to say tell God no, but it's something we prayed about and felt like at peace about right now staying. So that's kind of a little wrap up of last week's big news for Beth. Last Monday night, we recorded this podcast last Monday morning, our last one. Last Monday night, Maria and I did something we had not done in a long time. We went to a professional wrestling event together. I grew up going to wrestling. I was the biggest wrestling fan you've ever seen. And, growing up in the 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, I mean, there was about a 10-year run from probably 85 or 86, maybe mid to late 80s up through mid to late 90s, where I was just an addict. Like, I loved anything wrestling, and kind of cooled off on it a little bit toward the end of the 90s, early 2000s. And then some of you guys know the story. I was given free tickets to a professional wrestling, a WWE event that came to Greensboro, maybe 2017, I want to say. Neither one of the boys wanted to go. Maria said she'd like to go. So her and I went, and she became addicted. And for several years, I'd say about 5 years, that's everything she did. She ate, slept, and drank WWE and pro wrestling and NXT and all of that. It was everything in her life was pro wrestling related, to the point that she went and joined a professional wrestling school that we have here in Winston-Salem and was training to be a pro wrestler. And, COVID happened, and that kind of threw some kinks on things. And ultimately, she just kind of started cooling off on it a little bit as far as the training goes and being as into it as she got older into high school. But definitely, man, I'd say 6th grade through 10th grade, maybe even a little bit into 11th, she was just all in it. But she still keeps up with it some. But WWE was coming back to Greensboro, Monday Night Raw. She was going to be home. Josh and I have gone to some WWE events when they come to Greensboro, but Maria's been in Florida and hasn't been able to go with us. So she saw that Raw was coming. She asked if I wanted to go, and it's like, sure. So her and I got tickets, and we're planning on going, and it worked out well because a couple of her favorite wrestlers of all time, Brie Bella from the Bella Twins, and Paige is back. I know if you don't watch WWE, that means nothing to you. But they were there, and so she got to see them finally wrestle. She's never seen them wrestle in person, and so she was excited to see that. And the big news of the night, Brock Lesnar, who is a huge name, not just in pro wrestling, but in mixed martial arts and MMA. He's huge. I mean, he'll be a Hall of Famer in UFC and WWE. Made a very shocking and surprise return that night. And it was kind of crazy. I mean, there was about 14,000 people there in the Coliseum that went nuts, including yours truly, because Brock is one of my all-time favorites. And I thought he had retired. Everybody thought he had retired. And he showed back up and now is unretired, I guess. But it was pretty cool. It was great to see that and to be there when that happened, because that was kind of the talk of wrestling for the last week. So that was pretty cool to be there for that. And I essentially lost my voice that night, screaming and yelling. Maria and I did. We had such a good time. It was a blast. It felt like old times, her and I at wrestling event. And man, it was just a really great father-daughter outing. And man, we just had the best time. And one of the things we've always done is just whatever our kids gravitate to interest-wise, we just join them. Even if we don't understand it, even if we don't like it, we just join them in it. For me, some of the stuff has been fine. I mean, Jacob loves football, and so he loves the Carolina Panthers. And so we went to a lot of Carolina Panther training camps and football games. And for Maria, it was wrestling. For Beth, she's not a sports person. And she went to a lot of wrestling things, just her and Maria, because she loved Maria and wanted to be involved in what Maria was interested in. Same with Jacob, doing some stuff there and going to some football things, even though she's not necessarily a huge football fan. Josh, we shared that story a couple months ago on the podcast about a local, what I would call indie underground rapper that Josh enjoys. Him and one of his friends wanted to go to one of their concerts, and so I took them. Not at all anything I ever wanted to do or would ever wish to do again, but they like music and they wanted to go see this guy, so I took them. And Beth's done that with Josh also. When Josh was little, he'd want to go to Bug Fest, which is a huge bug convention here in North Carolina, and down at the North Carolina Museum of History, or Natural History Museum. And Beth is terrified of bugs, but she would take Josh because he loved them. And so you find out, what are your kids, what are they interested in, and go join them in that. It helps them just kind of explore life, and I don't know, it shows that you care. Even if it's something you would not have ever gone to yourself, I think there's something there where our kids can always say, Mom and Dad had our back. Mom and Dad went anything we wanted within reason. Mom and Dad jumped on board and went with. And that's something Beth and I have tried to do. And if you're a parent, especially a young parent, I'd encourage that. Don't force your kids into anything. Don't force them into your hobbies. Don't force them into what you think they should be doing. Just go do it. I don't know. I think you see a lot of unhappy kids playing sports or dance or music or whatever because their parents did that and they want their kids to do it, even though their kids may not want to do that. I just encourage you, let your kids try a bunch of stuff. Almost treat life as a buffet. Let them try a little bit of everything, and whatever they want to go back for seconds for, let them go back for seconds and thirds and fourths, and let them just enjoy that. But man, last Monday night, a week ago, was just awesome. Maria and I just had the best time together, just hanging out like the old days there at the WWE Monday Night Raw. I spent the rest of the week converting our church into a board game convention. This was a convention that we've done for many years. We call it ReCon. R-E because we are Project Re3, and Con because it's convention. So we just put the two together, call it ReCon. And this was ReCon 11. It started out, a couple of guys were like, let's do a board game day at church one Saturday. And one of them brought over maybe 100 board games from his own personal collection. And we set up the fellowship hall, and we had all day board gaming. And a lot of people from church came, and people from the community found out about it, and they asked if they could come, and we were like, sure. And so we had a nice group there that very first one. And we were just, after it was over, we were like, they were asking, when's the next one? And we were like, let's figure it out. And so ReCon was born, as is a lot of things at Project Re3, very organically, and much like I parent and Beth parents, where we say, kids, what are you passionate about? Now let's figure out a way to make that happen. We do that in ministry. I mean, we tell our church all the time, what are you passionate about? You can be passionate about anything, and let's figure out a way to connect that with the kingdom. So there's a couple of guys who loved board games, and we were like, well, how can we connect that with church? And so ReCon was invented off of that first day that we had the board game day at church. It has organically grown and evolved into an outreach and a mission fundraiser. I'll spare you all the details, but we're up to, like I said, this was ReCon 11. We do it every Memorial Day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We do not have worship on Sunday mornings, which a lot of people think is weird. Every Sunday of ReCon, inevitably, it never fails. We have visitors show up that didn't see it on social media, and we do our best to advertise it. But they didn't know, but it happens every year. But so we convert the whole church. There is only one room in the church that is not used, and that's our nursery. And the nursery is used mainly for storage, for all the stuff we need to pull out of other rooms and put it in there. But that's the only room that's not used in our church. Every other room is used. And sanctuary, fellowship hall, classrooms, everything. We convert everything into a board game convention, complete with lots of tables. We have a flea market where people can bring games and sell them. We have raffle prizes. We have door prizes. We have other giveaways. We turn the kitchen into a concession stand and sell food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks in between. It's a big deal. We've raised a bunch of money over the years, and it's been a slow build as we figured out how to make it profitable. It was free for many, many years, and it got to the point where we were having to turn people away. And so we started selling badges, which are tickets. We started selling badges for the weekend. You can buy a weekend badge or you can buy a daily badge. And this year was as close to a sellout as we've ever been. We sold out our allotment of weekend badges. We sold out all of our Saturday badges. We had less than 5 tickets left for Sunday, and Monday was in the teens. I don't know what it was. So you look at all 3 days combined, we had less than 20 tickets left when it was all said and done. So we filled it up. We're still got to calculate just a little bit more to see about the money, but it's going to be somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000 we raised on ReCon, which is substantial for just a little 3-day event like that. Every year we always have 100% of the money that is raised at ReCon goes to missions, whether it's a mission organization or spread out amongst other mission projects or whatever it may be. This year, for example, we decided to do the fundraiser for our Hope Center, the RE3 Hope Center. And so that's the facility we have here in Kernersville that gives out free food, free clothing, free counseling to the community. Obviously, if you're doing it for free, we have to get money from somewhere. So we are being a bit more proactive in raising money for the Hope Center. For a while, we just kind of waited on donations, and it's worked until now. But we just kind of felt like, let's be a little bit more proactive. And so we've done a couple fundraisers. This was one we decided to do this year. So we put another at least $5,000 in the bank of the Hope Center, which helps tremendously. So yeah, ReCon was a blast. It was Saturday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. It went Sunday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Monday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I was there about all day. I was there from about, you get there a little early, so I was there from about 7:30 to 7 on Saturday. I was there from about 7:30 to 9 on Sunday, or 9:30, it may have been closer to 10. And I was there from, we'll say 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock on Monday. So I'm whooped. My voice is about shot. And my people meter is running dangerously low. If I was an iPhone, I'm in the red, and I have about 3% battery life left on me. So it did drain me a lot physically, just staying up late, getting up early. It drained me socially, definitely. I taught a bunch of games and led some games, so I feel a little drained mentally. But it was a great weekend. We had a surprise drop by. Jacob came home. He was off work for Memorial Day, so he surprised us and came home Saturday and stayed with us Saturday night, Sunday night. So him and Beth and Josh got to come up to ReCon for a little bit. Maria worked a little bit, but all the kids were at home, and they got to spend some time together, and it was nice. So those days are few and far between now. So it was great to have all 5 people under the same roof Saturday night and Sunday night. Like I said, it don't happen much. But yeah, ReCon Saturday night was kind of the biggest for me. It was my first ever comic competition. I've only been doing comedy since March, basically. I took my first comic class. I think it may have started sometime in January, maybe end of January. It was 5 weeks, 5 classes, and then we had a graduation show the first Sunday night in March. And in my mind, that was going to be it. It was just something fun I did, just like last year I did improv classes. I thought that would be it. But the show was fun. I had a blast. Y'all have heard the podcast. If you want to go back and listen, you can. But it was a lot of fun, and the other students and the teacher was extremely complimentary of me. And Not that I'm a success by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like I have a bit of a head start on most. I guess you would say I'm a 30-year overnight success. I've just been in ministry. So most of my life has been on stage. I've worked with teenagers forever, maybe not necessarily week in and week out, but I do youth camps during the summer. I'm up in front of youth. I've got to figure out a way to keep youth engaged. Teenagers, eyeballs on me, their ears on me. And so I've used humor almost the entire time, just telling stories and learning how to craft a good story, and they're all true stories. I don't make up anything. I don't, take somebody else's story and put my name in it. Everything I tell is real. And I've done that for years. And so all comedy is giving me a platform to do is to tell those same stories, not connecting them with a sermon, just being able to share the stories for what they are, just a funny, ridiculous story with some of my thoughts popped in, like why I think this is crazy kind of thing, and pointing out some observations about it. And so after that first show, the graduation show, they had been having registrations and signups for the Ultimate Comic Challenge there at the Idiot Box. And my teacher was like, hey, I think there might be a couple openings if you want to reach out to Jenny. Jenny's his wife. She's kind of the owner-operator there of the Idiot Box. And I was like, all right. So I messaged Jenny and was like, Steve said to let you know I may be interested. I could do this, and if you want me to. And she said, you're in. So she put me in. She gave me, so this is back in March. So she penciled me in for Saturday night, May 23rd at 9:30 at night. So yeah, it was over 2 months away when she penciled me in. It was a late show. I didn't know what the clientele would be like at that late show. My comedy's clean. I don't cuss. I mean, it's as clean as you can get. It's G-rated comedy. And so I don't know if people were coming to a comedy club at 9:30 at night on a Saturday to hear clean comedy, but that's what they were going to get. I've had as you heard, again, documented on the podcast, my good friend Taylor Vaden and I have now partnered together and combining his musical expertise and musical talent with my comedy. And we've done a couple of shows together. We have a couple more lined up. We're hoping that kind of takes off pretty soon. Praise and punchlines. I have a couple of things signed up where it was just me as a comedian, but you don't know. I mean, my friends and family tell me they think I'm funny and they're enjoying it, but you don't really know until there's people there, that complete strangers, to, I guess, give you a thumbs up or thumbs down. So this competition at the Idiot Box is a audience vote comic competition. So there was 4 shows this past weekend. Friday night had 2, Saturday night had 2. This coming weekend, they have 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday. So 8 shows total. Each show has, I'll say on average, a dozen comedians. So whatever that is, 8 times 12. That's how many comedians compete. You compete, you all go up, you do a 5-minute bit. And then at the end, the audience votes. They're given ballots, and the audience votes on who their top, in my case, in ours, the top 6 were. And the top 6 move on to the second round. So going into it, man, I'll be honest, I was a little nervous just because you're putting yourself out there. I mean, it's American Idol style, kind of. I mean, anything that you do that you put yourself out there performance-wise, America's Got Talent, American Idol, whatever it may be. And then people, other human beings, whether they're judges or the audience, votes. You've got to swallow some pride and have some humility, because there's a 50-50 chance at best for you to move on, or to get slammed. And so as it approached, there was some times where I thought to myself, what am I doing? Like, I don't need to be doing this. Nobody is going to find me funny. I knew I could string together some cohesive stories, but would anybody laugh, So the night came, and like I said, I stayed at ReCon till about 7. I came home, showered, changed clothes, took off, got up there, and was able to catch maybe the last half of the first show. The first show was like 8 o'clock to about 9:15, and then our show was 9:30 till about 10:45 or so. So I got in there and I got to see the last maybe 5 or 6 comics from the first show. And that first show was packed. It was standing room only. It was really full, and it was a cool energy. I mean, there's a lot of people laughing, and most of the comics I saw were just hilarious. There was this one guy, he had a bit that I thought was Netflix quality. I mean, he was that good. I mean, it was like you could see a Nate Bargatze or Dusty Slay or somebody else doing it, that level of comedy. And he was that good. He was tremendous. And I was like, golly, I don't even know if I can compete with any of these people. I mean, that was the early show. I wasn't competing against them, but what was the night show going to have? So the show ends, everybody votes, people leave. Some folks stuck around to see the second show. The second show was not sold out, which Steve, who was my comedy teacher, he was there that night. He told me it was kind of weird. He said, usually the late shows all sell out and the early shows are the ones that don't. And he said the Friday night late show was a sellout. It was just like the Saturday 8 o'clock show, but the 9:30 show on Saturday night was not sold out. There was a decent crowd. I'm going to say probably as many were there for my graduation show, which was maybe 40, 50 people maybe, if I had to guess, something like that, which comedy clubs don't pull. You're not in a theater, so I mean, that's probably a pretty good crowd anyway. As Billy Joel would say, it was a pretty good crowd for a Saturday. The regular crowd shuffled in. So they did, I guess, a name randomizer, and I got pulled to go last. So I was, out of the 12 of us, I was going dead last. I did a little research online to see about comedy competitions and what would be the best place to go. And everything I read said the best is in the middle. They were like, it's tough to go first because the crowd's not warmed up yet. It's tough to go last because by that point they have comic fatigue and they're kind of burned out. And they were like, that middle section, no matter however many comics you have, the middle, the dead center, those 3 spots are the top spots to get. So for me, it'd be 5, 6, 7, something like that. But I didn't. I was number 12, and that's life. So, but in a good way, I got to sit there and watch the other 11 and observe the crowd, kind of see what was working, not working. There was a couple of guys that wasn't my style of comedy, and it wasn't the style of comedy of the people there. And it was rough. They just pretty heavy vulgarity and sexualized humor, and it wasn't landing. There was one poor guy, man. I don't think he got a chuckle. I mean, it was like crickets. And after this show, he came up to me and was like, well, I've bombed worse. And I was like, ugh, how? Like, I don't know how you bombed worse. There was one gentleman, though, who was hilarious. And he was by far, hands down, the best. I mean, there was like if there was a winner of the night, which we don't know how the voting turned out as far as first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, but he was, in my opinion, number 1. He was great. And so I went and I held my own. There was sustained laughter throughout my bit. And Jenny, the owner, she has a very distinctive laugh. And there was at least 2 or 3 times I heard her howling, laughing out loud. And you got to think, how many hours of comedy has she seen in her lifetime? I mean, thousands, tens of thousands of hours of bad and good comedy, but probably mostly bad. And so she's probably heard just about every joke told every way you could tell it. And so it's one of these things like, there's nothing new under the sun, to steal a line from Ecclesiastes. There's just nothing new, but when I heard her laughing, I'm like, all right, like that made me feel good that, I said something that she thought was funny and original enough. And maybe it was my delivery that it was a true LOL moment. There was another gentleman there. He's a fellow comedian. He did not perform Saturday at the early or late show, but he was there just kind of seeing everybody. And he had a very loud, distinctive laugh. And there was a few times he was howling also. And it was pretty awesome. It was really cool. And there was a couple moments where I had to give that pause. It hasn't happened yet in my comedy life, but I had to stop and pause because the laughter was so loud and had to give them a minute to kind of quiet down before I could move on to my next line. So it was pretty cool. It was a good night. So when I finished, I felt good about it. I felt like I did all I could do. If I didn't make it, so be it. And afterwards, I had a few of the comedians came up to me and, went out of their way to tell me how good I did. And the coolest was the guy I thought was the funniest, that obviously has been doing comedy for a long time. He came up and was like, dude, your jokes killed. He was like, that was awesome. And all these comics, most of them know each other because they all go to the Idiot Box or they do shows around the Carolinas, North and South Carolina. There was a guy there from Richmond, Virginia, who drove down to do the show. I think there was somebody from Wilmington. There was, but they all go to these clubs. They all see each other. They kind of know each other. I'm learning the comedian circle is actually pretty small, the world. And so they kind of all know each other. And so he was like, where are you from? He was like, nobody knows you. And I was like, from here. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I live, the town over, and I've only been doing this since March. And he was blown away. He was like, dude, you got to keep on. He was like, you've got some amazing material and jokes. He was like, you did great. And so that made me feel really good. In my mind, I'm like, you know what? Even if the audience doesn't vote me in, I feel like I got respect from peers, if I can call them that, fellow contestants in the Ultimate Comic Challenge. So I went home that night feeling pretty good, feeling like, you know what? I didn't bomb. I didn't screw up. I got some nice compliments. I'm good. And we didn't find out. I thought we would find out that night if who made it, but we didn't. Jenny was like, all right, I'm going to tally the votes tomorrow and I'll let y'all know. And so about midday on Sunday, I got a notification. I had been tagged on Facebook by the Idiot Box, or on Instagram from the Idiot Box. And I went and looked, and I moved on to the second round. So I was in the top 6. So I will be competing in June in the second round of the Ultimate Comic Challenge. So it'll be a new night, new time, new batch of, I'm sure, performers. I probably won't be the other 5 that made it with me. 1 or 2 of them may be on my show, or maybe not. I don't know how they'll do it, but I did make it. And so I felt very blessed and very happy, and it was very affirming. And so it was nice. A great surprise that I had on Saturday night when I got there early, and I was, for the first show, about halfway through it, I happened to look over, and sitting on the front row, I was like, I think I know her. And I got to look, and I did know her. And then I said, well, who is she with? And she was with her husband. And I was like, well, who else is she with? And she was with another person I knew. And she was with her husband. After the show, after that first show, I went over. I was like, what are y'all doing? It was 2 of my former youth, Ashley and Lauren, who were in my youth group back in literally 25 to 30 years ago. I said on the podcast, last week was my 30th anniversary in youth ministry. Ashley was in my youth group 29 years ago. In fact, Beth and I had just gotten married, and Ashley's mom and stepdad were going away on vacation and had Beth and I babysit for a week. We stayed at her house and babysat Ashley. And I'll get Beth to tell a funny story about that, about her and Ashley Ashley having to miss school because of Beth. But But yeah, so it was really, really special. I mean, I was blown away, and it also added a little bit of pressure because before I could be like, well, nobody here is going to know me. So, but then it was like, all of a sudden it was like, here's two former youth of mine and their husbands, and they're sitting on the front row. And they said they had got the times mixed up, and they came and bought tickets to the early show. And when they didn't see my name on the ballot, they went and asked, they were like, where's Michael Giannopoulos? And Jenny was like, oh, well, he's on the late show. And they were like, oh, no, we bought tickets to the wrong show. And Jenny was super nice and was like, look, don't worry about it. See the other show for free. And so they got to see, man, God bless them, 3 hours of bad comedy. I mean, they were there for the opening show at 8 o'clock all the way until I was the very last comic of the night. So they saw 24 5-minute bits. God bless them. So Maria and Beth were able to come. So yeah, there were 6 people in the audience that knew me. So I would like to think that's where 6 of the votes came from. But you don't know if that's going to be enough. But obviously enough other people were laughing and connected with me that I got to move on. And so that was fantastic. So it was a great experience. I will keep everyone updated on when my next performance will be. It'll be sometime in June. It will not be as late at night. I looked, the 4 days of the second round is June 12th and 13th and 19th and 20th. And all 4 of those shows are at 8 o'clock. So I'm assuming there's going to be 12 or 13 comics per show on those four nights. So, and then half of them make it to the next round, which will be in July. And I don't know how many make it out of the third round, maybe another half. I don't know. But the finals is in August. The finals happens to be on my birthday. I do not believe, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm going to make the finals, but that would be pretty cool if somehow I was able to make the finals and got to perform on my birthday. That would be pretty neat. But anyway, that's my update. Beth and Josh are not around right now. We've said before, we have access to a little vacation home, and there was nobody there using it last night or tonight. So school is over for Josh. And so Beth and Josh left yesterday and went up and are just taking a couple of days to, hang out and do whatever they do. And Jacob is back up in Boone working. Maria left this morning for another trip. This time she's actually staying in the state, but she is going down to Wilmington, North Carolina to see a couple friends and stay a couple of nights. So it's just me. I've had all day today by myself, all night tonight by myself. I'm recording this on Tuesday evening after dinner, and I'll have most of the day tomorrow by myself. But man, it's pretty quiet, which I'm enjoying. So anyway, that's kind of a rundown in life as I know it. Beth will be back on the podcast next week. She'll catch you up on any new details in her life. But thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. So anyway, as always, this has been Mike, and this has been another episode of Hey, Are You Still There?